Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Ted Cruz.
Wow. God bless CPAC. So there's not a single Democrat here. It's almost like CPAC invited Benjamin Netanyahu to speak. Well, you know, we could have had Hillary here, but we couldn't find a foreign nation to foot the bill. This is a room full of patriots. America is in jeopardy, and we are met today on a great battlefield. The men and women who are gathered here today are gathered to fight for freedom in our country. And the men and women of CPAC are going to play a fundamental decision in how we turn this country around. The men and women gathered here today are going to play a critical role in reigniting the miracle of America. How do we do that? How do we win? How do we bring back the miracle that is America? God bless you. Number one, we reassemble the Reagan coalition. We bring together fiscal conservatives and social conservatives and national security conservatives. We stand strong for economic growth, but we also stand for life and marriage. We defend constitutional rights, but we also stand and lead the fight against ISIS and a nuclear Iran. We need all three legs of the proverbial Republican stool, not one leg, not two, but the way we get to 51% is we bring together conservatives and libertarians and evangelicals and women and young people and Hispanics and Reagan Democrats. And how do we do that? We do that fundamentally by standing with the people and not with Washington. Washington wants Obamacare. The people want liberty. Washington wants amnesty. The people want rule of law. Washington wants power over the internet. The people want freedom online. And don't believe President Obama when he says, if you like your internet, you can keep your internet. Hillary Clinton embodies the corruption of Washington. We need to run a populist campaign standing for hardworking men and women. We need to take the power out of Washington and bring it back to the American people. Now, how do you differentiate? There are lots of terrific candidates. 2016 looks like it's going to be a crowded race. And there are a lot of people here who are powerful. They're inspirational. They make your heart soar. They inspire me every day. How do we differentiate? Well, we all know that in a campaign, every candidate comes up and tells you, I'm the most conservative guy that's ever lived. That's just what they say. I'm pretty confident you haven't seen any speakers come up here yet and say, actually, I'm a squishy moderate who stands for nothing. I'm pretty sure none of them actually stood here and said that. No, every one of them will say, you betcha who diddly, I am as conservative as all get out. Well, we have a way to tell the difference. The Word tells us you shall know them by their fruits. And so I would encourage all of the men and women gathered here today, demand action, not talk. If a candidate tells you they oppose Obamacare, fantastic. When have you stood up and fought against it? If a candidate tells you they oppose the debt and debt ceiling that are crushing our kids and grandkids, terrific. When have you stood up and fought against it? If a candidate says they oppose President Obama's illegal and unconstitutional executive amnesty, terrific. When have you stood up and fought against it? If a candidate tells you that they support the First Amendment, freedom of speech, religious liberty, that they support the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, fantastic. When have you stood up and fought for them? Talk is cheap. If a candidate tells you they support life, if a candidate tells you they support marriage, when have you stood and fought? If a candidate tells you they stand with the nation of Israel, terrific. When have you stood and fought? If a candidate says that they oppose Iran acquiring nuclear weapons capability, fantastic. When have you stood and fought? Actions speak far, far louder than words. We need to look to people who walk the walk and don't just talk the talk. If a candidate says they oppose Common Core, fantastic. When have you stood up and fought against it? You know, I had a former boss who used to say, if I'm ever accused of being a Christian, I'd like for there to be enough evidence to convict me. Now, that is powerfully, powerfully true, and it is equally true of being a conservative. If you're really a conservative, you will have been in the trenches, you will bear the scars, you will have been fighting the fights. And I'll tell you what the men and women of CPAC understand. It's that the biggest divide we have in this country, it's not between Republicans and Democrats. The biggest divide we have in this country is between career politicians in Washington and the American people. So if you have a candidate who stood against Democrats, that's great. When have you been willing to stand up against Republicans? When have you been willing to stand with the people? This is a fundamental choice in our country, a fundamental direction that the men and women here will decide. It was 40 years ago at CPAC that President Reagan said the path to victory is painting not in pale pastels but bold colors. I am convinced 2016 is going to be an election very, very much like 1980. Now, it's worth remembering, in 1980, when Reagan ran, Washington despised Reagan. Remember, Reagan had primaried Gerald Ford, the sitting Republican president, in 1976. You want to tick off Republican leadership? Come within an inch of toppling the incumbent Republican president. But President Reagan told the people of this country, the Republican Party is not a fraternal order. We share philosophical commitments to freedom. And the Republican Party matters only insofar and in so long as we stand for liberty and the Constitution and for the American people. Our nation is in crisis at home. Millions of Americans are hurting. Obamacare is a train wreck. And that's actually not fair to train wrecks. And all abroad, America has receded from leadership in the world. We see the president describing the horrible terrorist attacks in Paris as a, quote, random act of violence. There's nothing random about radical Islamists going into a kosher deli to murder Jews for their Jewish faith. When 21 Coptic Christians are beheaded, we see the president saying they were simply Egyptian citizens. They were murdered for their Christian faith, and the President of the United States needs to stand up and defend them. To turn this country around, it will not come from Washington. It will come from the American people. And so I would ask every one of you, if you will join our grassroots army, then take out your cell phone and text the word Constitution to the number 33733. Let me give that to you again. Take out your cell phone and text the word Constitution to 33733. It will be each of you empowering and energizing we the people that turns the country around, because I'll tell you, as my father said to me many, many times after he fled Cuba, I saw freedom taken away once, and I'll die before I let it happen again. Thank you, and God bless you.